Hello everyone. Today we're going to look at a game between Vishwanath and Anand, 2770 at the time, which is not a big deal anymore, is it? That rating, right? The guys are over 2800 now. But at this time in 1998, I believe he was ranked number 3 in the world and 3 years removed from his world championship match against Gary Kasparov in 1995. The black pieces, Julio Granda-Zuniga, who was 2630. The reason why I chose this game is because it illustrates. So enjoy. We'll get right into it. Game started out d4, knight f6, c4 from Anand, e6, knight f3. So no Nimzo Indian, but Queen's Indian. This line was pretty popular at the time. Bishop a6, b3, d5, bishop g2, bishop b4, bishop d2, and bishop d6. Bishop takes d2 is also possible and has the idea of playing c5. So, for example, castles, queen e7, c takes, e takes, knight c3, bishop b7, rook a c1, knight a c6, rook f d1, rook f d8, queen b2, and now finally c5, and you get this hanging pawn structure. This position of I would say white has definitely a slight advantage, but black will have to play dynamically, right, and be able to utilize his advantage that he has in holding the squares in the center. This game is from was a draw actually in 1994 between Alexander Sherman and Yuri Razuvayev. And this game was actually a draw, but the idea behind that bishop trade is to eventually play c5, and you have positions very similar to the Tartakower variation in the Queen's Gambit Decline, where you end up with these hanging pawns. In this other game between Predrag Nikolic and my old coach, Udasin, Leonard Udasin. Udasin plays c5 before castling, and we see the hanging pawns appear a little bit earlier, and we see the same scenario. And in this game, he got into a little bit of trouble doing the middle game here, and actually wind up losing. So here Zuniga takes more solid approach, more cautious approach, and plays bishop d6. And his idea now is to try to keep things ultra solid, and he plays this move c6 here. Anand castles, and now he strikes in the center with e4. Knight takes e4, so it's a temporary pawn sacrifice. D takes e4, and now you have two pieces attacking e4 pawn. Of course, f5 is not possible because of the threat to e6. Bishop e7, knight takes e4. So Anand is able to vanquish his opponent's control over e4, and now he has a piece in that square. So this has worked out well for white. Zuniga plays knight d7, bishop f4 by Anand. So here I would like to say Anand has a good advantage here. Alright, he has a space advantage, as you can see. He occupies the first 4 ranks with his pawns and pieces. Alright, and he has control, pretty good control over the center, namely e5, e4, and then d4 is contested. Excuse me, he has control over d4, and d5 is contested. Again, what do I mean by contested? Neither player can really place a piece on this square. So if the knight was here, of course, it would be captured. And if white had a piece here, it would be captured. So this square is being contested currently. However, it's in black's territory. All right, so that's a net positive for white, since it's a square in his territory that he cannot use around. All right, so white definitely has an advantage here. However, black's position is very solid structurally, and he just has to find a way to judiciously trade off pieces and gradually unravel and get rid of that d4 pawn, which is very annoying for black, but easier said than done. Zuniga plays knight f6. If he tries to play b5 here, c5, taking more space, b4, rook e1, bishop b5, and bishop d6. Very difficult position for black. So knight f6, and now queen c2 from the young Anand here. Rook c8, just a little point here, since Anand did leave the option to take the pawn. Of course, he didn't blunder the pawn, but he would just simply be winning after rook a d1. So queen c2, rook c8, rook fd1, and black is having a difficult time achieving one of these pawn breaks. And of course, in any of these Yaroslav type setups or formations, you always want to get c5 or e5 in. e5 is usually preferable, but it's harder to get in. That's why you usually see the c5 break perform. So here, this is what black is trying to achieve. Of course, with rook fd1, it's difficult because now the capture would expose the queen on d8. So you see this battle going back and forth because that central advantage is very annoying to black. Okay, he can't really free himself properly. h6, keeping pieces off of g5, and now a4. All right, so threatening, of course, to push and playing against this bishop right here. Knight takes e4, bishop takes e4. So now we see this bishop now takes the place of the knight in the center. Bishop f6, bishop e5, queen e7. And notice how Anand is just keeping black from basically being able to unravel. a5. And now Zuniga has to be careful because the knight, the bishop on a6 is hanging. And the simple capture is threatened right here. So he plays b5 here. Anand plays c5 with this simple threat. Rook fd8, and now b4. And this is what I was talking about at the beginning of this video, is a play against the piece. So now we can say that white is pretty much winning here, okay? Because black is pretty much playing without a piece, all right? Especially at this level of play. Rook d7. If bishop takes e5, then just simply d takes e5, and again with the c5 pawn and e5 pawn, the rook is coming to d6. We don't want that to happen if we're black. Rook d7, rook a3, queen to d2, rook d3. So preventing any nonsense tactics like bishop takes e5 and then capturing the rook on d1. Rook d3, bishop to e7, queen d1 from Anand, bishop f8 from Zuniga. So we see here that black's plans of playing c5 have been totally foiled. We can see here that black is also strategically lost. So now it's a matter of choosing what plan we're going to use to win the game. All right, the black pieces are totally bottled up. The bishop on a6 is an embarrassment. The rook on c8 is an embarrassment. All of black's pieces are bad. Okay, so it's just a matter of now. So now we know we have a big advantage. So now it's just a matter of concocting the strategy of winning the game. And the simplest strategy is to attack on the king side. The queen side is all locked up. All right, there'll be no progress there. Black has his bishops pointing directly at the king. Then he has his bishop on e5, right on g7. The rooks are both on the third rank, and the queen is ready to transfer over to g4, h5, or even f3 at any time. All right, so in this scenario, it seems like the right plan, at least the human plan, right? I don't know what the engines would pick, but would be to attack on that side of the board. Besides, black is already slightly compromised his position on the king side with this move h6, thereby leaving a hook, as the old timers used to call it, for white to attack. So Anand plays very natural move g4. Rook d5 was played. If f6, hitting the bishop here, then bishop g3, and now you see the weakness left on the light squares. All right, so uh, black is almost in a Zugzwang type situation here, where all of these moves are starting to hurt. So he plays this move, rook d5, offering the exchange. Anand simply continues his attack on the king side, h4. This opens lines, of course. Queen takes h4, so he sacrifices a pawn here, and he's well in his right to do so because black's pieces are so bad that not only is this bishop on a6 out of the game, but we could say that the rook is out of the game also. So it's almost as if black is playing down two pieces. Bishop takes d5, so Anand takes the exchange, c takes d5, and now g5. Okay, this is just brutal right here. Queen g5 check. Of course, rook g3. H takes g5 is also good for Anand, as you can see. Just you could just take everything at this point, and the rest would just be desperation. But you can see there that white is winning. So he made the natural move and played queen takes g5 with check. Rook g3, queen f5, rook a3, queen h7, queen e2, g5. It's hard to find good moves for black at this point. Bishop f6, again, jumping right into the weakened square. Queen b1, queen e4. And even if Anand traded queens, they still have a winning endgame here. But natural is the play for the attack, especially with the king side even further compromised. Bishop g7, bishop takes g5. This is another reason why I showed this game too, because this is the young, this is the tiger from Madras. This is the kind of games that gave him his feared reputation. Okay, because Anand was just, not that he's not a beast now tactically in his older years, but and I'm sure that the game is harder too, with the the rise of the engines and things like that. But man, some of his earlier games in his career, just like, it's incredible how he was just like fight for the initiative and just completely overwhelm his opponents. Queen h7, king g2, rook e8, and queen f6, just ending the game. Like, just devastating, just keeping the pieces out of the game. So I've basically told you everything. There's not even a reason to make a conclusion or like review or anything. You can see that bishop on a6 is bad. Don't get your don't be that bishop. All right. You saw what happens when a player plays a bit too passively. I showed you the other lines earlier where black would trade the bishop off and take on those hanging pawn positions. Now you can see why black would go into a position like that, right? Because at least he gets some chances dynamically. He's taking on weakness, yes, but he's getting some chances dynamically, all right, in the position. Whereas in this game, we saw Julio Anand-Zuniga play very solidly, but then he just wound up getting just pushed off the board, and then to the point where he just had to come under a vicious king side onslaught, as you see here. So hey folks, that is it for today. I hope you enjoyed that game. Please support my channel by clicking on the donation button below, and also below that are DVDs/books that you can purchase that are related to the opening. So if you're not familiar, on every video that I do, whatever opening that was played, that's the that's going to be the DVD or book, or that's going to be on the links below. So here we have Queen's Indian. So there'll be DVDs, the Queen's Indian, Nimzo Indian, Bogo Indian complex down low. They're all related openings, so that's what we'll have down there below. So please comment. I love your feedback. Any questions or ideas or anything like that, please leave them in the links below, and I'll see you guys on the next video.